cineasta e fundador da série RX. O Justin iniciou sua carreira em Nova York há mais de uma década, produzindo documentários e programas de televisão premiados. Em 2014, o Justin se mudou para Boulder, no Colorado, onde abriu a sua própria produtora. No ano seguinte, lançou a premiada série RX, uma sátira divertida que explora a cura para os males da sociedade contemporânea a partir da conexão com a natureza. Essa série foi assistida por mais de 40 milhões de pessoas no mundo. Justin, obrigado pela presença. Por favor, venha ao palco e fique à vontade.
Olá. Desculpa. Não falo português. Não falo português. It's very sad for me, too, because I love the sound of Portuguese in Brazil. It's much better for me than English. I imagine that when people hear English in another country, I feel like people who speak English speak a lot through their nose and their head. I imagine they hear it more like, I'm an American director, and this is how people hear it in foreign countries. In Brazil, people seem to speak very much from their heart, and a little bit from their hips, too. So I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, everyone from Samia who's gotten me here. It's been quite an honor and a pleasure. It's true, I'm an American film director and a writer. And I wrote this short comedy called RX, and we're going to show it right here.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of Nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
Bogardus. Did I pronounce it right? Bogardus? Terrible. I'm very happy to say, I'm very humbled to say actually that RX has gone viral. It has over 40 million views when you combine the views on Facebook and YouTube with no paid promotion. We had no market strategy. We just put it on the internet and people just started sharing it like crazy. It's been at film festivals all over the world, and I can't tell you how exciting it's been for me to tell this story, because I've been inspired by this idea. When people always ask me, well, how did you come up with this idea for RX? And I was inspired by this idea, this question that had been bugging me for the longest time. Does nature have a marketing problem? See, I'm a filmmaker, but I also have a master's degree in contemplative psychology. What the fuck does that mean? I'll tell you, it basically means I'm a type A Buddhist, which basically means I'm a get shit done Buddhist. I'm an executive Buddhist. I'm a New York Buddhist. I'm really interested in our minds and what happens in our minds when we talk about nature. As a filmmaker and as a trained psychologist, I'm really curious about the stories that we tell ourselves and how much the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we tell each other influence our behavior, influence the things that we value. And it's very interesting with nature. I've been very curious, like, why is it so hard to tell people how valuable it is for nature? And I imagine you have some similar questions. And I might look at some of the things that I've discovered in my journey in this process. From the people that brought you, getting outside becomes prescription strength nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the painful symptoms of modern life. This is very true. It's actually been scientifically proven. I'm sure you've heard today from many people, but a lot of research in the last 10 years has shown the incredible benefits of nature and getting outside for us humans. It boosts our immune system, it speeds up healing. Getting outside, if you exercise, it's like twice as good when you exercise outside. It makes you happier when you exercise outside in nature. And it also has all these effects on our heart, our cardiovascular system, so I won't bore you with all of those things. But it's very good. You know what you might be really interested to know, and I don't know if you know this, they've done some research about couples going out in nature and what happens to couples when they go out to nature. You might like to know that they've found that nature can vastly improve your sex life. You can get wild on nature. If you really want to connect with your partner, if you want more fiery intimacy, try nature. You don't have to ask your doctor about this. You don't have to ask your doctor. You can ask your partner. You can ask your partner or boyfriend or girlfriend. Ask your partner if nature is right for 2. Or 3, or 4, whatever you're into. Don't ask your partner or your doctor if nature's right for 3. But it's true. Nature is good. It gets us into our bodies. It gets us more in the present moment, which helps us be more creative and imaginative, and it helps us connect with our partners. Just remember, enjoy nature responsibly. And nature can reduce other things. It's not just good for our body, it's good for our mind. Nature can reduce the painful symptoms of cynicism, apathy, meaninglessness, and anal retentiveness. I don't know if they translated that right here. It's sort of a Freudian word, anal retentiveness. It basically means that you're so uptight that you have how do I say this? You're an asshole, basically. So if you find yourself being an asshole, you go out in nature and you'll be less of an asshole. Or if you know someone who's an asshole, you can take them outdoors. You'll be amazed to see that they become less of an asshole. So science doesn't call it that, but this is true also. Nature is recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too. I don't know what it's like in Brazil, but in America today, prison inmates and chickens spend more time outdoors than the average American kid. It's true. It's true. That's because we have laws and regulations that find it inhumane and unhealthy for general prisoners and free-range chickens to be inside so much, while kids and teenagers spend about 7.5 hours a day in front of these pocket computers and screens. 7.5 hours a day. I think this is a real crisis, and I don't know what it's like in Brazil, but if it's like a lot of the other developed world, the more we get in touch with technology, the more it seems like our kids are spending more and more time indoors and in front of screens. And this is really a problem, not just for nature, but for kids. It affects their development in big ways. It's really important for young kids to be outside. It hurts their nervous system. It makes them more uptight, more stressed. They have a difficult time concentrating. They're more susceptible to obesity. There's a lot of important social skills that kids learn by going outdoors. They're far more likely to get agitated if they're indoors too much. And they're not, kids actually need to be bored. Parents are always complaining, my kids are so bored. It's actually good for kids to be outdoors and bored and sort of figure out how to entertain themselves together. So I think it's really important when we think about when we take kids outside, what it really does for them. Unstructured play, too. Going outside and just letting them roam. They have this culture now, and a lot of this culture in America is changing. They have this idea of free-range children to help kids get outside more. And it's true that nature is also good for our pets. It's funny to me, I think NatureRx has been so popular and it's been seen all over the world because I think I could sit here and tell you all these scientific studies about how good nature is, but I think we all sort of know this on an intuitive level. We already get this. As soon as we see nature, we sort of already know this. And it's interesting for me as a psychologist, our minds are still faster than the fastest supercomputer we've created. We know more than we think we know, and we know a lot of things on an intuitive level. There's a lot of natural ways we make decisions. There's a lot of ways we're connected to nature. We know, for instance, that every cute dog that is out there is also related to this wild, cunning, intelligent, social animal, the wolf. We know that no matter how much we breed our dogs to be cute and friendly, there'll always be this wild wolf inside of them. And that's also true for us. Thank goodness. And it's interesting. I think we forget in our busy, speedy world where we're on autopilot, every day we go to work, this is the way I go to work, and we're in autopilot mode. We forget and we fail to notice how much we're driven by the same instincts and emotions that we had hundreds of thousands of years ago when we hunted for our food and we lived in caves. We forget how much we have this wild side. And actually, I would imagine they've done all this research. A lot of the decisions that we make in life, we think we make decisions for reasons. It's not true. We make a lot of decisions because of gut instinct, and then we tell ourselves a story that tells us this is why it makes sense. And this is actually a lot of the problem I think I've noticed with environmental groups and nonprofits. We tend to tell these stories from a very mental place. And that's a great way to raise awareness. It's a great way to inform people, and I think it's important to tell stories that way. But if you want to actually motivate people to think differently, if you want to actually motivate people to think and try new things often, you have to appeal to their gut instincts, their emotions, the same things that helped us be cavemen and survive. So, caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, and seriously consider what the fuck you're doing with your life. Nature isn't just good for our mind and our body, it's also good for our soul. It can help us create meaning in our life. It can help us have purpose and direction. And these are also really important things for being a human. There's a way in which there's this concern I have even more about with kids and not getting outdoors, this idea that they're losing their sense of wonder. They're losing their sense of awe. They're losing a very direct sense that you get in nature, that you're connected to something much bigger than yourself. And this is really important for the kinds of things that we need to solve these problems today, which is nature also makes us more creative thinkers. It makes us more out-of-the-box thinkers. It literally feeds our soul. There's research now that shows that the more time people spend in nature, the more sustainable their behavior becomes. The more, they consume less too. And they find out that people are more generous, they're more empathetic and understanding, and they cooperate. They get along with other people, so they stop being assholes. So nature's really valuable in this way. And people often wonder, why? And I know you're interested in telling good messages. You're a filmmaker. You like to tell stories that connect with people. You're sort of a rebel. This is why you like to do things differently. But really, when people ask me why did I come up with this idea for NatureRx, I like to show them this photo. This is the first time I ever went camping and slept out overnight. People assume because I made NatureRx that I grew up, in some mountain town and I was running through the woods. No, I grew up in the city. I grew up taking the subway to work every day, to school. I took the subway to school every day, and I had many friends that weren't exposed to nature. I was lucky to have a father who knew that this was going to be really good for my sister and I. This is also the first time my sister has gone camping out overnight. And thank goodness my dad didn't tell us this. This was also his first time camping out overnight. Any good father is very good at pretending he knows how to do something when he doesn't know how to do something. And my father was no different. And thank goodness he didn't tell us. Because we would have said, no, hell no, we're not going out in nature. There's bears and things like this, you know. I would have felt more comfortable sleeping on a subway car than I would outdoors. I'd be more comfortable hearing the sound of a loud car accident than the sound of a coyote. And for me and my sister, it was really important for us to know that my dad was like, yeah, I've done this before, we're gonna be fine. And this is at Glacier National Park, so I don't know if anyone's been there. But I slept really well that night. And my sister, I slept so well that I was snoring really loud, and my sister's like, it's a bear. And my dad's like, no, it's just your brother snoring, you know, your brother snores. She's like, no, it's a bear. She couldn't sleep. And this is the fun memories that we have from this adventure. You know, as a city kid, of course, I watched a lot of television and I played a lot of video games. But I don't remember very much of any of that. But even now, if I close my eyes, I can see Glacier National Park. I can remember the campfire, the smell of the campfire. I can remember the smell of the damp forest in the morning when we woke up. I can remember as the sun rose how the sunshine hit my skin and warms me. And of course, I remember being struck by the awe, struck of the sheer wonder in space. And I'm 8 years old, and this made quite an impression upon me. And I have to thank my dad for this. He said, you know, we're building memories. And even though his parents never took him out in nature, this is because of bears. You know, they also grew up afraid of nature. But my dad was smart enough to know, I don't know, maybe he was intuitive. He knew that he should take us out and try this. And I'm so thankful he did. And of course, the next day, you know, I'm a nature expert now, right? I'm 8 years old, I'm a nature expert. But I got really tired carrying my backpack. So I'd be like, you know, Dad, it's so hard. You know, can you carry my backpack? And he'd be like, no, let's go a little further. Like, Dad, my backpack. You know, it's really heavy. And finally, he's like, okay, I'll carry it. My dad's a very kind man. I'll carry your backpack. And my poor father, he already had like 40 or 50 pounds on his back. You know, he was carrying all the food, the camp gear, the stove. You know, he was carrying everything basically. And then, you know, I have no backpack, so I'm in the front leading the trail. And of course, I'm listening to hear if there's other campers coming or hikers coming up, and you know how this story goes, right? And so the other hikers come, I'll be like, go run back, I'd hear them, I'd run back to my dad, and I'd say, Dad, I can take my backpack now, I can handle it. He'd be like, are you sure? You sure you can handle it, Justin? I'd be like, yeah, Dad, I can take my backpack now, I can take it. And he'd smile at me and give me my backpack. Of course he knew what was going on. And then I would run to the front, and then the other hikers would come up, you know, around the trail, and we'd all sit there and have a break and have water together. And they'd say to me, oh, wow, did you camp up there last night? And I'd be like, yeah. You carried your backpack the whole way? I'd be like, yeah, I carried my backpack the whole way. I love camping. And my dad, you know, he let me be the hero of my own story in nature. And he just smiled. He never said, well, actually, no, I'm carrying the backpack the whole time and all this other stuff. No, he played along, and I can't thank him enough for that, too. This is one of these things that nature does to us, and a big motivation for me in making NatureX is how can I communicate the value and the experiences that you might get outdoors. Now, it's not always easy, as we know. We can tell these stories, and some people are hard to convince. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Well, nature may not be right for you. People now know me as an expert in marketing and telling stories in sort of surprising, fun, new ways. I like this phrase. It's this very quick quotation that explains effective marketing very simply. It's actually a quotation about poetry, but it's perfect for marketing too, or advertising. Poetry makes new things familiar and familiar things new. And there are some people that I'm sure there's some people in this crowd even that hear me, and they hear me talk about, it could totally change your life, a week in nature, you're gonna love your family more, you're gonna love your life a lot more. These are real things that can change, you can get from being in nature, and they're like, yeah, nature's great, but the insects, and the bad weather, and who has the time and the money? And people ask me, how do you convince people to fall in love with nature? And you see Nature X is like only a minute long. I wouldn't worry about trying to convince people too much. When people say, I like nature, and we get comments all the time, I like nature on our video, I like nature, but the insects are so terrible, I hate them. And, I don't try to convince these people. I say to them, you're right, nature is not right for you. And of course, as soon as I say that, they say, well, I like to walk in nature sometimes, and I used to, when I was a kid, play in the forest. And of course, this is reverse psychology. You tell people, well, nature isn't right for you. They're like, nature isn't right for me? Well, I love nature now. This is part of the thing, is to be very careful. We be careful of the stories that we tell ourselves too, especially in the environmental movement. I think there's very often a poverty mentality. There's a sense of urgency, that we don't have enough. And it's so hard to convince people of these problems. I think we need to flip the script and tell people that they're missing an opportunity. In advertising and marketing, there's this thing, I don't know if you know it in Brazil, it says hashtag FOMO, fear of missing out. This is one of the most powerful motivators for us as humans, hashtag FOMO. People are so afraid of losing an opportunity. They see other people doing something, they see all these people enjoying themselves out in nature, and they're like, maybe I should give nature a try. We really are monkeys in that way. We look at other people and see what they're doing. And this is part of what I'd like to encourage, like a different way of looking at nature, a different way of promoting nature. It's the connection for us as humans to nature is so deep-rooted. And when you start looking through our society and see it, it's very interesting. Did you know that the most popular desktop images for all our computers worldwide are beautiful images in nature? Did you know in England, they've done this market test recently, where in gas station bathrooms, in petrol station bathrooms, they now play bird songs. And this is really funny. They found customer satisfaction has gone up by a whopping 50% just with bird songs. Now we all know how terrible petrol station bathrooms are. And a little bit of nature totally changes the experience. Just imagine what more nature could do in our schools, what more nature could do in our cities. I think we have a great opportunity to reconnect people to the true value humans have for nature. I think we have a great opportunity to tell a new story about nature, and all we have to do is look at advertisements and look at what they do, and look at actually how they treat nature to learn some of these lessons. Do you know how many beer and car commercials show people benefiting from nature and having fun outdoors together? I'll tell you, a lot of them. Do you know how many, I don't think you have prescription drug commercials in Brazil, but there is a ton of prescription drug commercials in America. And we have just a lot of old people that have a lot of time to watch TV, I guess. And so even when I first came up with this idea for NatureX, I think I was really inspired by seeing these commercials all the time. And one thing I noticed, there's prescription drug commercials, a whole lot of them show people enjoying nature and being outdoors. I mean, really. Why are two old naked people in bathtubs outside? Really, what the fuck, why? I'll tell you. Brands know the true value we have for nature. Of course, they associate the happiness, connection, and freedom we get from nature with their products. You'd be surprised if you start watching commercials, not all of them, of course, but all commercials are trying to sell us the idea of more fulfillment. They know from the millions of dollars they spend on market research and focus groups and testing that what people want is not more things. We don't want more things. What we want is more fulfilling experiences. So they associate fulfilling experiences or the promise of fulfilling experiences with their products. And one of the most fulfilling experiences we can have is to get out in nature. All of our emotions and desires are the same that were there for us when we were cavemen on the prehistoric times. We want three basic things. We want to feel happy, connected, and free. And it's very interesting for me as a Buddhist, an executive Buddhist, and a get shit done Buddhist, and as a psychologist, that actually, when you think about it, all of our emotions and our instincts, our anger, our depression, our despair, all the emotions and instincts we have in life, we can trace them back to this desire for these three things, to feel happy, connected, and free. And you'd be amazed how many products, even big companies like Coca-Cola, how much they use nature, and they use these ideas of feeling happy, connected, and free to sell their products. And we'll have another video we'll show you.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. And the real I like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony. Perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing.
What the fuck does that have to do with selling soda water? You know, of course, this is selling happiness, connection, and freedom. Of course, where are they? They're not in front of the United Nations. They're outdoors. This has nothing, obviously, to do with selling sugar or water that makes us sick and unhealthy anyways. And it's funny, if we go back and we were to change all of these products to nature, you know, this obviously what they're selling is world peace. World peace brought to you by Coca-Cola, okay. But what if we were to change Coke to nature? It's the real thing, nature. Well, we can go back too, we can, you know, can we go back? Yep. Instead of, one more. Back to the beer commercial, one more back. Well, you know, this is another thing, is this Find Your Beach brought to you by Corona. That's the association that the beer is bringing you to the beach, it's bringing you to connection with your friends. But, you know, what if it was Find Your Beach nature? And what if it was nature is here instead of Cialis is here? Because that's really what this story is telling. And I think it's really important for us to notice this. And this is the kind of thing where we have to learn certain lessons about how to market nature. And it's interesting for me when I was thinking about it, some of the lessons that we can learn, let's see if we go forward, okay, is the wisdom that I learned from my father, the marketing wisdom of a good dad. And we'll see how I'm doing on time if I can get through all of this. But the first thing is to take risks. We can't just tell the same story we tell all the time about nature. People get very tired of hearing the same story. We need to change it in just little ways to make it fun and exciting. And it's actually when we see things in a new way that actually lights up our part of our brain that will encourage us to try something new. So I'll encourage you to take risks. And I'm not saying crazy risks, you know. We don't need to bring supermodels into nature. I mean, maybe. But, you know, we can take risks that we can understand, like my dad did. You know, we can use our gut and our instincts to understand what are the things that people need in our life, their lives. I mean, I think we have a great opportunity to reconnect people to the true power of nature by telling stories that offer solutions to their lives and to the issue of society at large. We can sell nature in this way, and this is what brands do so well. They speak to both the personal and universal value of something. So we take risks and we talk about telling stories that speak to very personal things that people have in their lives, and then also the universal values that we get from nature. And the second thing we can do is, this is really the wisdom of the father. I mean, mothers are really good at keeping kids safe, but fathers in a certain age tend to be the ones that encourage kids to, roughhouse and try new things and challenge themselves. And they also encourage kids to try things before they're ready. So the second thing I'll say is pretend you know what you're doing before you know what you're doing. I would have never gone outdoors if my dad didn't pretend to know what he was doing. And of course, I learned from my father, it didn't take me very long to pretend that I was a camping expert before I was actually a camping expert. And that's because there's something about being the hero in your own story. When I first was a filmmaker and I just first got started in New York City, I was actually a pretty shy person. And I had a mentor said to me, what do you want to be? I was like, I want to be a film director. And he's like, oh yeah, everyone wants to be a film director. And he's like, if you want to be a film director, tell people that you're a film director. And so I went out there and I would tell people, I'm a film director. And everyone's like, oh, this guy's really arrogant, He's full of himself. And so I learned quickly, okay, my mentor had the right idea, but maybe a little too much. So it's important, the stories that we tell ourselves about the work that we do. It's important to remind ourselves that we're the hero in our own story. We don't have to tell everyone else about it. We don't have to be arrogant about it and be confident about it. But really, I think what we're doing for a living in promoting nature is one of the most exciting and fun things that we have a tremendous opportunity. And when you're selling nature to other people, when you're speaking to a government official, or, some of you probably already know this trick, or when you're creating an advertising campaign, it's really important to let the other person be the hero in the story. This is what my dad did for me. He let me act like I was carrying my backpack the whole time when I really wasn't. And it's helpful to encourage people to also pretend they know what they're doing before they're doing it. And Coca-Cola, of course, understands this too. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a Pepsi can with a Coca-Cola costume on the front of it, and it says, everybody wants to be a hero. And obviously they think they're the hero and Pepsi is not. This is Halloween, and we all dress up in American Halloween. And so this was also a very popular campaign. And this again speaks to the most basic instincts and emotions that drive us. We all like to believe what we're doing is heroic, and it's also very important to connect with your audience. So you see this guy in the NatureX commercial, everyone's like, oh, that's you. No, it's not me, it's my friend, he's an actor. But he's the hero. He's feeling tired, irritable, and stressed out, and then he discovers this magic power. And this is basically storytelling 101. You want storytelling 101 really efficiently. It's this idea that we have this magic power inside of us, and we have to challenge ourselves, we have to go out in the world and try new things, and then somehow we figure out that the magic power was inside of us the whole time. It's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? Or Luke Skywalker. And okay, so I don't have time to go. I would have given you the 4 basic ingredients that ads use to harness the power of our minds, but I don't think we have time. We do have time? Okay. All right, so there are 4 basic, I'm giving you the secret sauce. This is how the sausages are made. There are 4 basic ingredients that ads use to harness the power of our mind. And I've sort of been talking about them the whole time. But the first one is they create stories that are personal and relatable. Ideas that instantly connect to our lives. The second one is they introduce ideas in novel and unexpected ways to capture our interest and empower us to try something new. This is where humor becomes really powerful, and you'll notice how many commercials use humor. They sort of use humor, or they shame you. They tell you you're not good enough, and this is why you need to buy things. But they use humor a lot because humor is all about presenting ideas in unexpected and novel ways. And that's actually what a lot of advertisements are selling too. Like, this product will make you more powerful. And when you experience something in an unexpected way, you're more likely to try new things and feel more empowered. This idea of the aha moment. So I hope people get that when they watch NatureX. And it's this idea that truly, actually, that when we sell nature, it's not false advertising. We're really telling people that it can make you more powerful. The third ingredient is join the party or movement. Don't miss out. And this is hashtag FOMO, this fear of missing out. And this is also where we pretend we know what we're doing before we do it. You have to create an idea that something's happening. Something's happening out there, even if it's not happening. Like when you invite people to a party, how's this party going to be? You just tell everyone, this is going to be a great party, you got to go. It's the same with nature. Maybe we don't feel like the Brazilian national parks are where they need to be yet, but we should think about what they could be, and that don't miss out on this opportunity. The fourth ingredient is value. All advertisements are telling you that there's value out there that you don't have, and they're selling some kind of value. And this is not the kind of value sometimes bad advertisements will tell you, oh, you're going to save this much money, blah, 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 blah. But the really good advertisements are selling the kind of value that actually matters to us. It's selling us the basic instincts and emotions that drive us, the things that actually motivate us and cause us to think differently and do new things. And again, it's these three things: to feel happy, connected, and free. And I think all of us secretly, maybe we don't want to jump into a cold lake naked, but we all sort of want that feeling, of being out in nature and that free, happy, and connected. And so then we're back. You guys recognize these pictures, right? When Joyce first called me to come down here, she's like, we're really amazed with what you're doing in America and with the national parks, and we're really impressed, and we think you could teach us so much about the human connection to nature and promoting nature. And I was drinking water, I almost choked. Because to me, thinking about Brazil, and when I think about all my friends that are foreigners, and when we talk about Brazil, I think you guys have the best brand for nature. Look at these people. I think of Brazilians as already very aware on some level. It's not so hidden in your minds that a lot of the power and energy and things that make your country great is your connection to nature. Look at these wild birds and exotic animals. There's a way in which this is still very alive in your culture. And I don't think it's actually very hard to make the shift and tell people that, it is true. They've done studies about this in America. People who love the city, or even people who are poor and cannot afford to go to our national parks, they ask them, would you mind having more tax dollars and closing these national parks? And then people are like, no. Even if they're never going to go to these national parks, because it's become a part of our identity. And I think Brazil could be there very quickly. I think Brazil could be there very soon if we tell a different story, where even if people don't care about going to these national parks, it's like I live in Colorado now, and people are crazy about nature there, and it's like Germany too. People are like, I want my nature! I want to protect animals. Yesterday, one of my friends, there's like a wild bobcat that was in her backyard, and I think any other country, everyone would be like, freaking out. And she's like taking video, and she's like a nature documentarian, and she's watching it, and everyone's liking it in Colorado because this is considered like a big honor that this wild beast would be right outside your house. And I think in many other countries everyone would be like freaking out. But this is sort of what it's like in Colorado at least. And so I'm very excited. I think with NatureRx I'm just getting started. There's NatureRx Kids we could do. NatureRx for Kids is another ad campaign we could do. NatureRx Nighttime. And maybe NatureRx Brazil. Maybe that's a fun campaign we could do here, because I think in Brazil there's a lot of fun, exciting work we could be doing. The fourth, there's another things that we can learn from the wisdom of my dad and marketing. Remember what's really valuable. I've said it enough times now. What's really valuable? To feel happy, connected, and free. Yes, okay, you've got this point now. And then, of course, the last thing is to have fun. And actually, what I think this is about is sort of like the attitude my dad had, which was when we went camping, which is to be resilient, to have resilience, to remember what really matters, and to remind yourself every day what it is that you're doing and what you're fighting for. I like to show this picture. Oh, I'll get back to that. My slides are sort of confused. This is me. I was actually having a really shitty day. when I met Jane Goodall. I was very stressed out. I was filming a project, and then I was speaking with her at the World Conservation Congress the same day. And, you know, she's an amazing being. You know, she really is like an amazing spiritual being. And I had the opportunity to speak with her, and I was like, look, Jane, I mean, I don't know how you do this every day. You seem to get up, and you seem to, and she's really funny, too. She's like, you know, people are sort of stupid. You have to tell them about nature as a drug. She encouraged me, you know, to be shameless, sell this. And she really likes to laugh and have fun, and she liked to tell me her, you know, the first time she got inspired by nature was not actually being outdoors. It was seeing this stupid movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Dr. Dolittle. Maybe this is this is what inspired her to get connected to nature. It's this silly movie about a guy that can talk to animals and like a two-headed llama. And so I just, you know, Jane was like, yes, you know, sometimes of course I get angry and I get frustrated and I get really sad about what's happening. But for me, there's no other choice. You know, I feel like she was talking to me and said, we have the best job, and we already know in our hearts that we're committed to this. We already know. It's not like we're already committed to this for the rest of our lives. So, you know, why have a bad time? Why not have fun? Why not focus on what's really important? And of course, when I do get discouraged, one of the best things I can do is go out into nature, and like that. I remember what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's really, really valuable. And so I sort of messed up the slides, but I'll tell you something. This story that we're telling about the value of nature is by no means a new idea. In fact, it's the oldest story that's ever been told. From cave paintings to Star Wars, getting outside, reconnecting to nature is the original hero's journey. It's where you leave your normal world. It's where you leave the village, where everyone has some story about you, and you have some story about yourself, and you go someplace where you get to, you know, leave that world and discover who you really are. Discover what your priorities really are, what's really important to you. The fun thing for us is how do we update that story? How do we keep changing that story to tell it to a new generation? And I've done that, I hope I've done that with HRX. I mean, even I think Darth Vader needs a break sometimes. He needs a break from the dark side. We can tell fun, surprising, unexpected stories about how powerful we can be in nature, how powerful a society can be in nature. Again, the personal and universal. We can tell stories that solve our personal problems and the problems of Brazilian society at the same time. We can tell this story in a way that arouse our courage and motivate us for the journey ahead, in a way that also tells people you don't want to miss out on this, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can ask your doctor if nature is right for you. Thank you.